My name is Ray Park. You may know me as playing Darth Maul in The Phantom Menace, Clone Wars, and also solo at Star Wars Story. You're listening to Star Wars Stuff Podcast. The Force is strong with you all. And remember, Sith Walk.
Hey, this is Dominic Pace, who plays Gecko the Bounty Hunter from The Mandalorian, letting you all know you are listening to the Star Wars Stuff Podcast. Wishing everybody all the best, and may the Force be with you.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of the Star Wars Stuff Podcast. My name is David.
I'm Colin.
And this is where we talk all things Star Wars. And I'd just like to give a very special thank you to Mr. Park and Mr. Pace on our introduction today for today's show. They were so gracious to record intros for the podcast. I was finally able to edit them and upload them here. So thank you so much. If you have the opportunity to meet Ray Park and Dominic Pace, do it. They're awesome with the fans. They will have full-blown conversations with you. And they are Star Wars fans, just like you and me. So Definitely check them out when they head to your closest city.
I have not met Dominic Pace yet, but I did meet Ray Park at Detroit Comic Con a couple of years back, and that was pretty cool. And he loves to do the Darth Maul flip like all the time. Like he loves showing off his moves because he's so good at it. So I don't blame him. Yeah. But I remember that being an awesome experience. So like David said, if you get the chance, totally go out and see him. And I heard Dominic Pace is really cool too. So
yeah, he traveled the country again. He did it last year and he did it this year as well. And I was able to troop at the Dragon's Lair in San Antonio, Texas, where he showed up and he signed autographs. And yeah, we talked a whole bunch, and I was able to contribute to his cause. And Ray Park is just great with the fans. He was in like a golf cart, I think, when me and you met at 2017 Celebration in Orlando. He drove by and everyone waited in line, just like cheered and just kind of waved, and he went to wherever he was going. But yeah, he definitely spends a lot of time with fans talking about Star Wars and just kind of bends over backwards to give you the ultimate Ray Park, Darth Maul, Snake Eyes experience. And it's really, really cool. So
when you went and saw him, did you talk to him about the new Snake Eyes movie, just out of curiosity? Because I was wondering what he thought about that.
No, I didn't. I'm not a huge... When I was a little kid, I loved the G.I. Joe cartoon. I mean, loved it. Absolutely loved it. I love Snake Eyes, Storm Shadow, Cobra Commander, Destro. I loved them all, man. And it was weird because that cartoon never really went into syndication. So we never saw it like getting older. I only saw it as a little kid. And I believe it was on the USA Network. That's my memory of it. But then, of course, I don't know what studio got a hold of it. And it started like Channing Tatum and eventually The Rock and all that.
I think it was Paramount.
Yeah. And I didn't really kind of get into it.
And
the Wayans brothers, I think, were in it.
Yeah, I mean, I could never really get into G.I. Joe. Like, I mean, because of, I think they like saw the, like how great the Transformers did. They were like, oh, hey, well, then we can just bring other old cartoons back. And then, so.
Yeah, there was a rumor back in the day that the Transformers and G.I. Joe were going to merge.
They are trying to do that with Fast and Furious and Jurassic right now. Yeah.
Well, I mean, they're both Universal, so.
Yeah. But anyways,
back to Star Wars.
Back to Star Wars. First shred of news.
So the first shred of news we have is Tamir Morrison did an interview, and like all interviews, he kind of talked about a couple of interesting things here. So with the Daily Express, Morrison said, Jon Favreau has come up with some magical formulas. We've got some great directors on board. Robert Rodriguez, Favreau, Bryce Dallas Howard, and Dave Filoni. It's just a new world. It's a new world. They like to keep the Star Wars stuff under lock and key, even though he's talking about it. But yeah, he's obviously talking about the Book of Boba Fett. And he was asked if he'd go into further details on the series. And then he said Can't share much, but Tamir Morrison said we've got to look at the timeline. We've got to look at where Boba has been. We got to keep the fans happy. I love the fact that he mentions that. We got to keep the fans happy because to me, it's all about the fans. Boba Fett is a huge legacy character that we're super hyped to see backstory, flashbacks, how he got out of the
Yeah.
Sarlacc pit. I mean, there's so much there. And Brendan Wayne did a podcast where he did talk about how it's going to be grittier and getting grittier than The Mandalorian. That's something right up my alley because I thought The Mandalorian was maybe as gritty as they were going to get, but Boba Fett straight up shooting Bib Fortuna in the stomach. I mean, that was pretty hardcore for Star Wars.
I mean, that's true from a certain point of view because of, if you remember in the Clone Wars, there's that scene where I talk about a lot because, like, you know, people used to say, you know, the Clone Wars is a kids show, and then Savage Opress like decapitates like 7 people at the same time, and you're just like, whoa. So like, I was kind of expecting something like this to happen. Because of now we're getting to what a lot of people always wanted, was to see more of the underworld in Star Wars, and we're going to see that in the Book of Boba Fett, and that's pretty exciting stuff. That like fight scene, where we actually see him get the armor back and everything, that was gruesome, and it really showed you, you know, how much rage that Boba Fett can really muster in battle. So I'm really excited to see him and in his own show and in his own environment, and we are going to see faces that we saw, you know, for a brief second in live action in 1980, you know, Bosk, IG-88, you know, all these bounty hunters. Like this is going to be like
allegedly.
Well, I know, but yeah, but I'm just excited to see you know, all of these elements into the show because of, really, to us, Boba Fett was so cool, but honestly, he's very, very overrated. Because of
you think he's still overrated after episode 7?
Not anymore. Not anymore. He was overrated because, you know, he was built up to be this great bounty hunter. And he was trying to follow in his father's footsteps and everything, and people were like, oh my gosh, like it's and I mean, at the time, you know, we like didn't really know much about the Mandalorian people, but now that we do, and we're like, oh, like, you know, he's like like compared to a lot of the other Mandos. But then you know, he gets stabbed in the back of his jetpack, and then he, you know, slams into the sail barge and rolls into the Sarlacc pit, and you're just like, all right, that's it. He got defeated by a blind guy by accident.
I mean, it was pure luck. I mean, it was pure luck.
Yeah. I mean, but at the same time, like, to me as a kid, I was like, all right, who's next? Like, I was kind of disappointed because of, he was really built up to be this like awesome bounty hunter, but now, like, I mean, not comparing him to Aquaman, but I mean, but I do remember, like, before the Aquaman movie came out with Jason Momoa, people were like, oh man, like Aquaman's like the dumbest like superhero of all time. And then the movie came out and people were like, man, you know, he made it pretty cool. And that's exactly
$1 billion movie.
Yeah, and that's exactly what Mara Morrison is doing with this character. Like, I mean, like, he is making the character cool again, and I can't wait to see all the flashback stuff. Hopefully I mean, I feel like they have to at this point to actually see him escape the Sarlacc pit, because that's something people have been wanting to see for a while. Because if I remember, there was like a list as soon as Disney got the rights to Lucasfilm and they were saying, hey, we are about to make more Star Wars films. I remember, you know, a list that some of the top things were a show or a movie about Obi-Wan Kenobi and about the aftermath of Revenge of the Sith and Boba Fett surviving the Sarlacc pit. And now we're getting both of those. Like, how crazy is that? I cannot wait to see what's going to happen in the show, because of these like characters are so phenomenal. And something I've noticed, which is like, you know, starting to kind of be a pattern, is with the cartoons like the Bad Batch and the Clone Wars and stuff, we are seeing characters from those shows like kind of pop up in live action. Because of in the Clone Wars, we saw more of Bo-Katan, and then in season 2, we got her in live action, and then and then the Mandalorian, we got Fennec Shand, and then she in the Mandalorian, and then she popped up in Bad Batch. So I think there's a chance that some of the characters from Bad Batch, or one of them, may show up in the Book of Boba Fett. I think it's starting to become a pattern, if that makes sense.
Yeah, the synergy, the connectivity between the animation and the live action is awesome, and Dave Filoni's behind it all. So
Yeah,
you
I
have
know.
one guy with the plan of interconnecting all these characters and going back to stuff that has been released for years now and connecting that all to the new stuff. And we'll talk about that a little later when we talk about the Bad Batch episode. But it seems like with this group of directors that Tamir Morrison talked about, Bryce Dallas Howard, Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni, and then of course Robert Rodriguez directed. So, and we know he directed a few episodes. So that already is about 5 to 6 episodes for sure that we're getting for the Book of Boba Fett. But it feels like the more and more information and the more that Tamir Morrison keeps talking about the Book of Boba Fett, the more it seems like it is the next season of The Mandalorian. And someone keeps on saying that it's The Mandalorian season 2.5. I keep on hearing about that. But there's a wild rumor that we're going to talk about at the very end of the show, if you don't want to hear about it, that kind of connects to that. And it's just awesome that these guys and Bryce are back. I mean, they knocked it out of the park with The Mandalorian, and it has my seal of approval that they're back.
That first episode of season 2 of Mando felt like a movie. Like Jon Favreau knows how to do that with a TV show. So this sounded like the Book of Boba Fett is also going to be like his baby as well. So that first episode is going to blow everyone away. And then with Dave Filoni and Bryce Dallas Howard on board, the show's going to be great. And so far, with all the Star Wars shows that they've done, I really had no real complaint about anything. Like I mean, and not saying I'm looking for it to complain about something, but sometimes with the shows, and especially stuff with the sequels, where you're dealing with characters that we love and enjoy. I remember after Last Jedi, I was very fearful, because I was like, oh my gosh, like if they keep doing this, then they might, do like something to another character if they go back. Like, I mean, because of after the way that Luke was in Last Jedi, I was kind of afraid. But then Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni started doing stuff live action. I'm just like, this is great. Like, why haven't they been doing this before? Where have they been all this time? So it's awesome
Favreau has tried. He tried to do Boba Fett a long time ago, and like you said, this is his baby. Yeah, they've shot it, and it's in post, and we're expecting something, a trailer, photos, something soon.
Something I'm just gonna take a wild guess, but how cool would it be if we got like a trailer during the Olympics? Because there's gonna be a lot of eyes on the Olympics. So I'm thinking maybe a trailer teaser for Book of Boba Fett, and maybe a teaser for the new Spider-Man. I can see that happening. Yeah. Because they like used to do trailers for movies and stuff during big sporting events, because then that would bring more people in. So I the
NBA Finals is happening right now on ABC, which is owned by Disney. So
right,
but you never know. We might get something,
possibly,
and then Visions is coming out in September, so maybe something around that time period to kind of pump up Visions a little bit.
Yeah. I was gonna say there is so much going on. I love the fact that which we'll talk about Bad Batch in a bit, but I love the fact that we're pretty much getting Star Wars pretty much the entire summer. Every single
Bad Batch
Friday. Yeah, which is awesome. And then soon it's going to be changed to Wednesdays, which I still don't know how I feel about the whole Wednesday thing. Because I felt like Fridays were the days where it'd be like, oh man, after work, after a long day's work, I can look forward to it, and that was always the traditional way to do it. Like for the Clone Wars when I was a kid, after school I would go in and then I would go watch
And
the Clone Wars.
In regards to that, it seems like Disney is moving away from the Friday slot because of Netflix. Because Netflix drops all their stuff on Fridays, so that's why they're moving away. Apparently, that's what the story is.
Okay. All right.
So, yeah, but yeah, I love all these directors. Everyone here is involved except for officially Rick Famuyiwa, but I'm pretty sure he'll be back for season 3 of The Mandalorian. And Taika, of course, is doing his movie. Deborah Chow's doing Obi-Wan Kenobi, and the aforementioned Filoni, Favreau, and Bryce, and of course Kathleen Kennedy's in that picture too. But yeah, that's a great group of talent right there. So the next thing that kind of happened, the Hollywood Reporter did an interview with Patty Jenkins, and they asked her about how the development of Rogue Squadron was going, and she had a few things to say. I'll read her quotes. She said, "It's going amazing. Let me bring up a picture actually here. Yeah, she was featured on that Investor Day call, and apparently what happened was that presentation that she did with rollerblading up to the car, then putting the jumpsuit on and the helmet, that was actually supposed to be meant for Celebration 2020. So we were supposed to see it then and have the shock then. But
I remember that investors meeting that happened with all the trailers and stuff, and I just was sitting there like, man, I really wish that Celebration happened this year. But I think this movie is going to be great, and I like how in the interviews she like keeps mentioning the books and the games and stuff, because a lot of people think it's going to be based on the sequel trilogy, but all the books take place during the original trilogy, and that's where I want it to stay. I know a lot of people wanted to be in the sequel trilogy, and then it will be, it'll take place after Rise of Skywalker, which is fine. But at the same time, if you're doing something based off, stuff that we love, I would love it to stick in that era and not like just be the original title, but its own thing. I want it to stick in the original trilogy because of those stories were amazing. And the characters in those stories were amazing. So I hope that we get to. I'm not expecting to see young Luke Skywalker again. If we did, I would be blown away. But at the same time, I think we will get its own original thing, but it's going to be sticking with the story. It's going to follow the blueprint of Star Wars.
Yeah, reports are is that it's happening after the Rise of Skywalker. But if you notice in that video, though, she walks directly towards an old school X-wing from the original trilogy. So how's that gonna kind of factor in? And of course, I mean, you can have older X-wings after the Rise of Skywalker because obviously we had Luke's. But yeah, I just wanted to read some of the quotes she had. She said, "It's going amazing. I had been on it already for 6 months before I even announced that. So we're pretty deep into it. We're finishing a script, crewing up, and it's all going wonderful. I'm so excited about the story and excited that the next chapter of Star Wars, which is such a responsibility and such an opportunity to really start some new things. It's really exciting in that way." So the script is being written by Matthew Robinson, whose previous works were The Invention of Lying, Edge of Tomorrow, which is pretty beloved, Love and Monsters. And she also said, Patty Jenkins, it's an entirely different way of working as far as working with Lucasfilm, doing a Star Wars project here. I'm on the phone with all of them and doing Zoom meetings with everybody involved with Star Wars all the time. I'm fairly free to do the story that we want to do, but you really need to know who's done what, who's doing what, where it goes and how it works, and what designs have been done before. It's a whole other way of working that I'm getting up to speed on. So she talks about being fairly free to do what she really wants to do with Rogue Squadron. And I think that's a great thing. So you just talked about it not being connected to the Skywalker saga, and we've clearly moved away from that. But what she basically said was she's developing her story and she's talking to the story group and everyone at Lucasfilm that knows Star Wars to simply guide her on her way to not really kind of diverge like crazily from canon. So I think that's the proper way to go with it. And I hope it is canon. I hope we get brand new characters. I hope it seems like something totally different, totally brand new villains, brand new everything, except for the X-Wings and the TIE Fighters, because I think that's what everyone's kind of anticipating. So it's all good stuff that she's saying. So it's getting me a little bit more hyped.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, so and something that they're kind of doing with Marvel right now is which I think it's good for these franchises to do is that after Rise of Skywalker, you know, they have to kind of go a different route and they have to, you know, bring new people in but keep the old people in at the same time. And I think that is what these new films are going to be, especially with Rogue Squadron. Because of it's not only gonna, you know, if it takes place in the sequel trilogy, I think one thing that it's gonna do, it's gonna make people probably want to go to Galaxy's Edge more, and they'll also want to go and do the new Star Wars hotel that's coming up. And I think it's gonna make those things more relevant. And if we do get Daisy Ridley back as Rey, I would love that. That would be great. I know Ray, like
That was a rumor
like
out there, yeah.
yeah, like our other co-host Ray would love that too. It's because of there's always more story to tell in Star Wars, and that's the great thing about it is that it will never end. There are endless characters, there are endless journeys that will go forever, and this is just one way of, you know, of going there. And it's going to be very interesting to see what the actual outcome is going to be. If it's either actually going to be in the sequel trilogy or it's going to stick to the original trilogy because of the way that she's talking, the way that Patty's talking, it sounds like it's going to be in the original trilogy because if she keeps mentioning all the old like stuff that her movie's going to be based off of. But then you're hearing all these rumors that's going to be the sequel trilogy. So I'm either way, I'll be excited about it because it's Star Wars, but I'm really hoping that we stick with the original storyline because it's like these like stories are phenomenal in my opinion.
Yeah. And we have to wait till December 2023 to see it in theaters.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like we're going to get a novel tied into the Vision series, which debuts in September, I believe September 22nd. So it'll be a few days after you're married, Colin.
Yeah.
So this is the cover of said graphic novel. And the title is Ronin. And I've always thought of a type of story like this, a lone samurai without a master, kind of secluded, almost like Obi-Wan in a way. And it looks like they're doing a project like this that's tied to one of the episodes of Visions. I believe it's episode Duel. And this is straight from StarWars.com. A mysterious former Sith wanders the galaxy in this stunning Star Wars tale. An original novel inspired by the world of the Duel from the Star Wars Visions animated anthology. The Jedi are the most loyal servants of the Empire. 2 decades ago, Jedi clans clashed in service to feuding lords. Sickened by this endless cycle, a sect of Jedi rebelled, seeking to control their own destiny and claim power in the service of no master. They called themselves Sith. The Sith rebellion failed, succumbing to infighting and betrayal, and the once rival lords unified to create an empire, but even an empire at peace is not free from violence. Far on the edge of the Outer Rim, one former Sith wanders, accompanied only by a faithful droid and the ghost of a less civilized age. He carries a lightsaber, but claims lineage to no Jedi clan, and pledges allegiance to no lord. Little is known about him, including his name, for he never speaks of his past nor his regrets. His history is as guarded as the red blade of destruction he carries sheathed at his side. as the galaxy's perpetual cycle of violence continues to interrupt his self-imposed exile, and he is forced to duel an enigmatic bandit claiming the title of Sith. It becomes clear that no amount of wandering will ever let him outpace the specters of his former life. So the author is Emma Miko Candon, and it's her first journey into Star Wars. And you can go to StarWars.com, and she does like a little interview, and she talks about this upcoming novel that's tied into Visions. So I'm super hyped. I'm gonna buy this for sure. I'm excited about the Star Wars anime stuff. So what's your opinion on Visions? What's your like hype level? Are you like super anticipating it? Is it like something you're gonna watch immediately as soon as it drops on Disney Plus?
I am always intrigued by new Star Wars projects. 1 second. Sorry. But I was never for anime, it really never piqued my interest.
Mm-hmm.
But
Same here.
But with them doing the combination of Star Wars, I think these projects are going to be amazing because of this is kind of, going on what I've been saying where Disney needs to have like a fan, like Lucasfilm needs to have a fan contest, and they're having like these individual writers coming in and just doing their own thing with Star Wars, which is great. I don't know. Have they said if any of these are going to be canon?
None of them are going to be canon. I think they're all standalone.
Okay.
They gave all these creators free reign to do whatever story they want to tell. So
right,
they're going to pull elements, but it's almost going to be, it feels like to me, kind of a sort of EU type of like endeavor in a way.
I mean, well, the way that they could kind of pull this, I mean, like kind of, have it essential to the actual Star Wars timeline is where they could be like, these are legends from the past or something like that, and it could be just someone kind of telling tall tales, like something in the lines of that, because I think from the trailer I think we did see a Boba Fett like in one of the trailers. So I think it's going to go all over the timeline. I think it's going to take place during, probably the High Republic, maybe the Clone Wars, maybe the sequel trilogy, Galactic Civil War, all of the timelines, I think, and all these will be tall tales. My only worry was that, that these would be canon. But if you're thinking that they won't, then, that, I mean, because like I've got nothing against it being canon, but it's just going to make it more complicated if these stories are really just all over the place. Because of I saw some of the concept art for some of the stuff, and it looked like some of the real world elements kind of put into the world of Star Wars, and that's something I always disliked, especially with Ewok movies. Like, I mean, if like horses and cows and llamas and owls and stuff, which I was just like, okay, the whole point of Star Wars is to escape the real world stuff. So if you add the real world stuff into it, then you're not really escaping. So I'm hoping that we don't get any of that, but if they're not canon, then they're not canon. So that's all I got to say about it.
Yeah, these days, I think I've grown less fond of just, it's got to be canon. It's got to all match, because it's just going to be not possible the further you go out into time to have everything not conflict with existing canon. I mean, we saw it in this past week's episode of Bad Batch. I mean, the stuff doesn't match up with some of the novels that are canon, but we'll talk about that later. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think all these Visions episodes are going to be really wildly out there, like you said. I mean, it's going to be just brand new creations, interpretations, original stuff from different creators that probably had been dreaming to get their hands on Star Wars, and they finally got approval, and we're going to see stuff that I don't think we ever thought we'd see in Star Wars. And I'm all for it. I kind of want to see what kind of creative vision Visions has to offer. So I'm excited.
And I forget. Have they said that they're releasing it all at once, or they're going to do a new episode?
That's the other story that kind of popped up. Nothing official, but I did hear some people speculate that it was going to be a huge drop of just all the episodes, like a binge watch, kind of like Netflix. But I mean, they might stay the course and just release one episode a week. And I think that's the better strategy on their part. So people like you and me can talk about it and dissect it and have it more time to really kind of ruminate and kind of just sit there and us kind of rewatch it without having to go through the whole thing all at once.
So something which I didn't see on our notes, but I want to talk about it real quick, is that we still have no release date for the new Lego Star Wars game.
I'm not really worried about it.
I'm worried about it. I'm worried about it. They're not saying anything about it. And that game, they put so much work to it, and it's so anticipated. Like, I mean, so far they have released that they are doing over 20 planets of free roam, and there's more to add. That they're gonna say. I mean, how cool is that? But at the same time, we got a trailer a year ago, and then
COVID happened, and that probably threw everything.
I know, I get it, and I understand, but at the same time, they could give us something, something, because of this game is supposed to be like the best one that Lego has ever done. Like, they have changed the whole way that they do, these types of games, and they're having over 200 playable characters from the Star Wars universe. Max Rebo is one of them because it was in the actual thing. And I mean, and Max Rebo was a playable character in the Force Awakens Lego game that came out a couple of years ago. But it's going to be so detailed, and you can go to all these planets and you can free roam, and it's going to be awesome. But it really bums me out that they haven't talked about it for a very long time. They have a chance over at E3 and all those game conventions, and just nothing. So I'm really, really worried about it because I am anticipating this game like hardcore. So hopefully we get some news soon, like just a shred, of just saying, hey, we're still working on it. Like, they haven't said anything like that at all. So.
Yeah, to me, it kind of feels like they're still working on it, perfecting it. I'm all for giving
something.
Yeah, they could say something, but the Star Wars is notorious for not saying anything at all. So, which is kind of lame. And we've talked about it before on the podcast. They need someone out there making sure that information gets out officially from Lucasfilm. But
yeah,
kind of is what it is. But I'm all in favor for projects to actually take a little while for them to perfect it.
Well, yeah, but at the same time, this game was supposed to be released last year, and it's been pushed back 3 times.
Yeah, well, I think we'll get it by the time Rogue Squadron comes out in 2023.
I would be so mad, bro. I would be half of that's 2 years of Star Wars projects that would have came out when this game was supposed to come out in 2020.
Yeah.
So I know I'm just upset about it, but at the same time, I really appreciate all the people over there working on the game. I know the game is going to be amazing. I'm highly anticipating this game. I'm waiting for it. I've been talking about it since they dropped the actual poster for it of May 4th, 2020. So I'm excited. I'm nervous because we haven't heard anything, but I know everyone over there is working hard and doing everything the best they can.
Lego, if you're listening, give us an update.
Yeah, please.
You can email us at starwarsstuffpodcast@gmail.com. I dropped a photo in our Star Wars Stuff Podcast Facebook group, and a lot of people had a lot of opinions, and I don't think they quite read the caption here, and it's pretty clear. I'm going to put up the picture right now. Zack Snyder's reworked Star Wars script being developed by Netflix. So we talked about it on the podcast a few weeks ago. Yeah. I mean, you can clearly read what it
No.
is. I mean,
It is not an actual Star Wars project. It is a
Right.
script that was rewritten to be a sci-fi adventure that just took the Star Wars elements out of it. So it will be this sci-fi adventure with like aliens and stuff like that, but it's not going to be, like an actual Star Wars project on Netflix. There's no way they would do that.
right. In an article on news.com.au, Zack Snyder's new Netflix movie Rebel Moon, which is very Star Warsy, is based on a rejected Star Wars pitch, the article says. So it's a story we talked about a few podcasts ago. Zack Snyder approached Lucasfilm with the story. Apparently, it's going to be reworked, like the picture says, into a Netflix film. And there's a co-screenwriter by Shay Hatton and Kurt Johnstad, and they co-wrote 300. So that's a pretty good team, I think. But according to the Hollywood Reporter, who I think got the initial scoop, they explained that the film will take place when a peaceful colony on the edge of the galaxy is threatened by the armies of a tyrannical regent named Belisarius. Desperate people dispatch a young woman with a mysterious past to seek out warriors from neighboring planets to help them make a stand. I think Snyder said here, this is me growing up as an Akira Kurosawa fan, a Star Wars fan. It's my love of sci-fi and a giant adventure. My hope is that this also becomes a massive IP and a universe that can be built out. So Zack Snyder is literally reaching for the stars here. I mean, it's almost like when George Lucas wanted the rights for Flash Gordon, so he made a Flash Gordon knockoff called Star Wars. So
And
it's
that's
kind of
the
like
best
that
thing that could ever happen.
Yeah. Yeah, we talked about it, James and I, on the podcast last week. I think we talked about, or actually on our stories, which I'll be dropping here soon. We did an Our Stories podcast for Patreon with James. And yeah, we talked about how all these like perfect situations and all this luck kind of brought itself to Star Wars and the genesis of Star Wars. But yeah, I mean, I like Zack Snyder. I know a lot of people don't. Like I said on the Facebook group, a lot of people had knee-jerk reactions and were like, keep him away from Star Wars. He's not going to be in Star Wars, but he had a pitch for Star Wars that was denied, and he's taking it to Netflix and reworking it so that hopefully it can be a franchise, and that'd be great.
I think we should, kind of guess how many slow motion scenes are going to be in this next one. Because
maybe about 40% of the film.
Oh my gosh, yeah, no, I remember watching the actual Snyder cut, and like I think I said 10% of the film is slow motion, and I was just like, whoa, because of he likes doing those shots, and there was another one that came out which was it wasn't Dawn of the Dead, it was Army of the Dead.
Yeah.
And that has some slow motion scenes in there too. So I don't know if he's like, hey, I'm gonna put this in all my movies now, but we'll have to see.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. Army of the Dead was all right. I mean, it got a lot of views. I'm not sure if it was a great film, but I think a sequel might be in the works. And I think a prequel is in the works too. So if you're a fan of that, great. But Zach is not involved with Star Wars.
No.
Hasbro Pulse dropped some images this weekend. And
it's about time.
We are going to get a Trapper Wolf figure. And there he is right there in all his glory.
So
Trapper Wolf is
good.
Yeah. Trapper Wolf is Dave Filoni. Dave Filoni as a Star Wars character. And we all saw him in the first season and the second season. He played a bigger role. And he was more silent than the other X-Wing pilot, Carson Teva, who didn't have a figure announced, but hopefully we do get one. And of course, there was a mock-up done.
Wait. He's playing. Wait, he played two different pilots?
No, Trapper Wolf. He played the same pilot in 2 different episodes. I believe it was episode.
You like said the other guys got it. Yep.
Yeah. The actor who played Carson Teva, and he is his figure wasn't announced, but a mock-up was done by Brian Ward, and here it is right here.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, hopefully,
So
we're thinking that we're gonna get this figure eventually, but Hasbro Pulse did announce the Trapper Wolf figure, which is coming out later this fall.
I like bet that Dave Filoni's like freaking out though, because I mean Dave Filoni, going into the Clone Wars and stuff, he was a Star Wars fan. So now that there's an action figure of him, I mean, how cool is that? It is just like George, because of I remember when George Lucas made a cameo in Revenge of the Sith, and and just being part of Star Wars and creating Star Wars in a way, and then having your own character in it, that's like would be mind blowing to me. I mean, like I made this, but I'm also really part of the Star Wars universe, and that looks incredible. I think Dave Filoni should be very humbled, and he probably is like a kid and freaking out at me like, man, I got my own action figure, and I guarantee like John Favreau's gonna be like, man, I'm jealous because now he'll probably be like, man, now I want my own action figure. I'm gonna have to write myself in or something.
Yeah,
So yeah,
definitely. But yeah, that's pretty cool. And Hasbro Pulse also announced the Cantina Showdown, which is in the Power of the Force line, and it has the logo for the 50th Lucasfilm limited anniversary.
I love the I love the box that it's in, because that's the stuff that they were selling like in the 1990s, like in that packaging, and that just brings back so many memories.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna try and buy it as well if there are some available. But here's them out of the box, and you get a piece of the cantina, which is interesting. I don't think they've ever sold anything like this. I might be mistaken.
They have.
Though, but, okay.
Yeah. No. They have. But I mean, but not with the Black Series, but with like the normal like action figures, they would sell like different pieces of it, and it would come with different people from the cantina. But something with Black Series I love is that it just, man, they're so detailed. They are more detailed than a lot of the. I mean, nothing will ever compare to the Hot Toys or anything like that. But for a decent price, Black Series is the way to go. And I've got my fair share of Black Series. But just a heads up for anyone trying to go to Target or anything like that, like you really have to have a guy in the inside, or just be there first thing in the morning, because there are so many scalpers that just go in the stores and they just buy a bunch of them, and then they sell them online for more than what they're worth. So if you want these type of things, order online or get to Target early, because I remember Force Friday was always a crazy like day too, where like people would do the same thing. So yeah, those look great.
Yeah, like I said, I'm probably buying all of them. Anything we pretty much mention on the podcast, I'm probably buying.
Yeah, I'm. It's starting to look like you're almost out of room.
Yeah, I have other walls here. I have almost a whole wall full of Black Series that I'm looking at right now.
There you go.
Yeah. Keep on getting more. And I think Dorkside Toys actually sent me figures that I didn't even buy, but they still sent them to me. They're duplicates, but
that's awesome. I see. I see your wall and I see James' wall, and I'm just like, man, I just want moving to be done, because of my whole wall is empty behind me, and I've got a whole idea to make it like all like very nerdy and stuff. But yeah, awesome. So if there was one like action figure that they haven't released yet, but you've always wanted, what would that action figure be?
That they haven't released yet. Yeah. I keep on kicking myself about the katana, the Jabba Cell barge. I should have bought it. I should have bought that thing, even though it's like, what? It's like 4 feet long or something.
I know so many people.
Not going to fit on any shelf.
I know so many people that have like 2 or 3 of them, and I'm just like, so what's your plan with them? Are you going to resell them? And they're like, well, I've got one on display, and then I got 2 in the box just in case if the one on the display gets broken or something. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. So
But
I don't regret buying the Razor Crest. I bought 2 of them. I'm going to display one and have one in the box. So that should be shipping here sometime in the fall. And that is, of course, from HasLab as well. That was their next project. I don't know what the project after that's going to be, but I'm definitely planning on purchasing that too. And if you look behind me right there, I got the Slave One in. It's not HasLab, but it is the newest Slave One.
Don't you mean Boba Fett's ship?
No, I don't mean that. It's called Slave One. So, yeah, the box says Slave One. If you go to StarWars.com in the data bank, it still says Slave One, so it's still called Slave One. I think that whole kind of controversy was just a little bit of confusion because the Lego actually renames a lot of the stuff so that the younger kids can actually repeat it back to their parents that they want that figure ship or whatever. So I think it was kind of much ado about nothing, but we'll see. You never know what happens.
Oh yeah, because because of which is kind of funny, but every time I end up going to Star Tours, and I'm like walking in, I go to a cast member and I point to the AT-AT and I'm like, hey, how do you pronounce that? And it's just so funny of the answers, because most of them say AT-AT, but you always get those handful of people where they're like, it's called an AT-AT. And I was like, okay, well, how do you call a ATST? And they try to think. I'm like, it would be asked or something like that, because it's just like it is by letter, not by the name, because of I feel like saying AT-AT just feels wrong. So just saying like Boba Fett's spaceship, it's called Slave One. Just call it by its actual name.
Yeah.
That's the moral.
I don't have a problem either way, but I mean, I think all of us old heads are gonna refer to it as Slave One no matter what, even if they change the name. So to me, it's really no big deal. But I wanted to also talk about a story that dropped last week that we didn't talk about, but I think it's worth mentioning. So Clone Wars Season 7 was nominated for 3 Emmy Awards, and StarWars.com has a full write-up on it. It says the final season of Lucasfilm's Star Wars Clone Wars has received nominations for the 48th Annual Daytime Emmy Awards in the following categories: Outstanding Writing Team for a Daytime Animated Program, Outstanding Music Direction and Composition for a Preschool, Children's, or Animated Program, Outstanding Sound Mixing, and Sound Editing for a Daytime Animated Program. So, bravo. Congratulations. Clone Wars Season 7 was awesome. And I think it deserves all the awards it can get, because I think that really pulled me in more into the Clone Wars world, and I think it was super exciting. I think it spawned the fact that we have the Bad Batch now that we get to talk about all summer long.
So something that is great about the Clone Wars, and about like the 7th season in particular, is that as Disney got the rights to Lucasfilm and the Clone Wars got canceled, they actually filmed the entire arc of the Bad Batch, like years ago, and then when they announced that, hey, we're doing season 7 on Disney Plus, they just brought that back in, but they changed some things about it to make it lead up to Bad Batch, because I don't think Dave Filoni had the idea of doing a whole show about Bad Batch, because of in the original ending of the show, it was complete. Of that arc in the Clone Wars, it was completely different than what we got in the actual show. And it really did kind of lead up to them having their own show, which is awesome. But I loved season 7 in particular because the last 4 episodes felt like a movie. And someone out there in Reddit made a 4-hour cut, like the extended cut. And I've watched it at least 3 times, because it's done so well. And honestly, I've been saying for a while, Ahsoka, really deserves to be live action. And George Lucas and Dave Filoni, I think they tried to make her into the actual like movies and Attack of the Clones, I can't think of the one girl of her species in the room where Obi-Wan and Yoda like are talking about Kamino missing, and all the younglings are in the room. I can see David making this face. He doesn't know what I'm talking about. But there is a girl of her species in that room, but they couldn't make it canon because she was too young in that scene. And the Clone Wars movie takes place a couple of months after
you're talking about a
Attack of the Clones.
Togruta. You're talking about the
Yes,
Togruta.
yes,
Okay.
yeah. So I was hoping that one day soon that we would get her live action, and then season 2 came along, Mandalorian, and we got her live action. Now she's getting her own show, and it's going to be awesome. It's going to be great, and it's awesome to see these characters transitioned from cartoon to live action because of Dave Filoni was joking with Katie Sackhoff about saying like, hey, one day this character could be live action, and then and then the person that voiced her is now playing her in live action. Like, how cool is that?
Yeah, I know that is one of the most remarkable things that has happened with Star Wars. It kind of lines up with Gareth Edwards finding that old B-roll of those pilots and putting them in Rogue One from A New Hope, I mean, that kind of like synergy and connectivity it's so awesome when it happens in Star Wars. And in less than a week, I will be meeting Katie Sackhoff, and I'm getting her autograph, getting a photo op with her, and she's doing a panel along with Giancarlo Esposito, Ming-Na Wen, and Carl Weathers, and I'll be attending that for sure. And hopefully I'll get some video and some audio there, and I'll put it on the podcast. I'm not sure how fast that's going to go up on YouTube, but it probably might go up pretty quick because it's a big convention. So yeah, and I'm going to get my Bo-Katan figure signed by Katie, and hopefully get a pretty good picture with her. And hopefully maybe I get her to record a little something too and put that on the podcast. And speaking of like really great things as well, this last episode of The Bad Batch was really great. And it was called The Devil's Deal. It's 28 minutes long. It's 11th episode. We only got 5 more
just
left.
So you know, we are diving deep into this because there's a lot of deep cuts. There's a lot of Easter eggs. Yeah, I know. I corrected myself. But no, I love Bad Batch, but it is starting to feel more of a origin story type show where it's showing characters that we love and adore. It is showing like their stories, like the origins, and then we'll see later in the Star Wars timeline. Because of that first episode of Bad Batch, we saw Kanan. Was not expecting that at all. I was like, oh, okay. And then we go to Ryloth, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And in the back of my mind, I was like, hey, we might see Hera. I didn't think they would do it. And then all of a sudden, Hera and Chopper show up, and you're just like, okay, this is happening. But I do have a prediction that Hera Syndulla's mom will get killed by the end of the show, because of in Star Wars Rebels, they like talk about, they mentioned her and stuff, and that she passed away at the end of the Clone Wars and stuff, but they never said how, and then they never said exactly when. So I think this will be a big part of Hera Syndulla's, her origin story. Right. And I think that's great because of, again, this is when like the Empire is coming to be. So the Empire's still trying to figure out what they're doing. I wasn't expecting, so Orn Frita, in the Clone Wars, he like came off as a good guy. I love that name. Yeah, I know.
Orn Frita.
Yeah, Orn Frita. But he like kind of came off as this senator that was nice, but at the same time you knew he was power hungry. And in that first season of the Clone Wars, he definitely had that. He had a rivalry with Chan Syndulla, which is Hera's dad. And in this episode, you like see it, even worse, except Chan just doesn't care. He's like, I don't care if you have a problem with me. I'm going to do my own thing. And the Empire the entire time actually believes that, like, Chan just wants, peace and everything. So he's going to do everything in his power for them to kind of turn in their weapons and stuff like that. And then we see Hera's mom show up for the first time. And the first thought that popped in my head was like, oh man, like at some point during this, she's not going to make it.
Yeah.
But I love the transition of seeing, all these, like some of these characters that we see in the Clone Wars to where we are now. Now, there's a lot of talk about there is a clone commander in this that looks like his chip might have been defective because of he is
Hauser.
not, he's not on like on it like the rest of the clones that executed Order 66. So I think there's a chance that maybe, he like might be good and he might join the the Rebel Alliance or something like that, but most likely I think he's gonna sacrifice himself in some way.
He's gonna play a part in future episodes, it feels like, and his kind of design for his color scheme on his suit was something different that we've never seen before. I don't think we've seen teal before.
No, and I'm curious of what Legion that he's part of.
Yeah,
because I've never heard of him. His like hair also matched his like suit as well, which I thought was pretty cool. Because we've seen clones have numerous like different color designs and their hair too. But we've never seen something like this, as you said. But going through the episode, learning that Hera really has this passion for like flying already, even though she's really never flown before, is just like, it's a calling, just like for Luke. He's like, I'm meant for more than just being here on Tatooine. I belong in the stars and exploring and having adventures. And that's exactly what Hera's going through. Like, and this episode that we first see here, where she's like, I belong up there. I know I belong up there. And it, what, I think Han Solo would probably be a better comparison, because of all like Han wanted to do was just go up there and fly, and make himself like the best pilot in the galaxy. And then actually in Forces of Destiny, which were these shorts that they did, which are canon, Hera and Han actually meet each other, and they and Hera tries to she like is supposed to give him food or something for the Ewoks, and she's like, I will if you say the Ghost is a better ship than the Falcon. I'm just like, man, I would love to see that live action of them just kind of going at it. It would be really funny. But kind of going back, we like see things go sideways where Hera's uncle wants to defend themselves against him. Defend themselves.
Pretty cool
Empire.
voice. I like this voice.
Yeah. I think that's the same guy that ends up showing up in Star Wars Rebels when they do all the stuff on Ryloth. But anyways, we end up seeing them going to a different planet. They land, and then Hera meets the Bad Batch, and they go on there, and she meets Omega, and they're on the ship and stuff. And
until then, it almost felt like it was a Rebels episode.
Yeah. So I was
which
like,
is cool. I liked it.
Yeah. I was wondering when the Bad Batch was going to show up. I was like, are they going to
how the Bad Batch was going to tie in? Yeah. But I just love that connectivity. I mean, it to me, that's just the awesome thing about Star Wars. But.
Right. So now like she like talks to them. She like gets back on the ship. Crosshair also, I don't think like he's damaged really at all. Like he is still on point with the shots. Like he's like spot on with them. I think maybe his chip may have got damaged, but now he might be acting on free will. I have heard a couple of other people say that. But I honestly think that there's a chance that he might be acting on free will. And but he doesn't know, which is even more darker. And I think they'll definitely touch up on that. But but they end up getting shot down, and then they're trying to say that Chan has committed full treason, even though it wasn't him. And then they kind of hint at what the person that needs to be punished is Hera, and then Chan steps in, and then Ornfree Taz just like, you know what, kill them all, like I want the power. And then we find out that Ornfree Taz was just a pawn in the game, and then he gets assassinated, which contradicts something in
Lords of the Sith.
Yeah. Lords of the Sith book, which I never got to read, but I did read about that, and I was like, oh, okay, so this is the second time. This is the second time that they have done this in this show, where they are contradicting some of the novels.
And it seems like Dave Filoni really isn't like following along with the novels and the comics. He's just doing the story that I guess he thinks is the best way to go. And it
do you think
like
he knew this stuff? Or like I mean, do you think
I want to say that someone in the story group flagged it, because I mean, so many fans kind of brought it up, and I mean, if we know it, they of course have to have said something at some point,
right?
But like I said earlier in the podcast, I mean, doing more and more Star Wars projects, it's going to be hard to keep in line with the same stories. But then you get to the whole certain point of view aspect of it. I mean, stuff can be kind of perceived as different, and some people are actually thinking about maybe Ornfree Taz survived it, but he got shot straight up in the head. So I'm pretty sure the guy's dead, unless his species allows for him to survive such a shot.
Well, Cad Bane did get shot in the head, and he survived that because of in the episode before, like we saw like the plating of him being shot by Boba Fett, which I really hope that we see that live action, because if we like
Cad Bane in the Book of Boba Fett,
Cad Bane, like of just a flashback scene, and that would be a great way to bring back Daniel Logan. So, oh man, that would be so cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, so so we see him get shot, and then Chan and his wife get arrested, and Chan orders Chopper to go save Hera and take her away from the scene, and they do. And I think, okay, well, first off, Dave Filoni was in this episode because he voices Chopper. So I thought that was pretty cool. I was like, man, he's back again. All right. But seeing Chopper and Hera was pretty cool. I like posted something on our Instagram where it shows young Kanan Jarrus, and then it shows Hera and Chopper, and then I'm just like, are we gonna go to Mandalore, and are we gonna see Sabine? Are we gonna see like a young Zeb? Because of now, it really is starting to feel like a real prequel show to Rebels, even though technically this is a prequel show to Rebels, but at the same time, it's starting to feel more like it because of we're seeing the younger versions of these characters, which I didn't think we would. But it's very interesting to me to see, these types of things, because if there ends up being a second season of Bad Batch, what's that going to be about? Because I did have a fan message us recently, and I've said this before, but but they think that it's going to be a Rogue One situation where, at the end, most of them are not going to make it, and maybe one or two are going to be alive, even though in Rogue One no one made it of the main characters. But I think in this, there are a couple of the clones that have potential to still be part of the Star Wars timeline, and that could show up in later projects. Like, how cool would it be for in the Ahsoka show that we end up seeing, like Rex shows up and he's like, hey, I found an old friend, and ends up being, Hunter or Wrecker. Like, that would be cool to see. That would be awesome to see.
Yeah, so I'm hoping we get Omega in the Book of Boba Fett.
I think we will get her in Ahsoka. I don't know if we'll get her in Book of Boba Fett. I mean, if we do, then we do.
Boba Fett's sister. That's a great story to pursue.
I am still thinking that by the end of Bad Batch that we will see Boba Fett show up, because it would just be a missed opportunity not to do it, because it's going to hype people up for the Book of Boba Fett even more. So I think it would be a good thing for Daniel Logan to, come in and do a couple lines of Boba Fett, and then then it's like this holiday season, Book of Boba Fett, and then it'll be like, whoa. So I think they can totally do it.
Yeah, that sounded a lot like Robert Rodriguez when he does his
In a
trailer
world
voice.
divided by fear. Yeah.
That sounded more like Ryan Reynolds, but
Yeah, I know.
yeah, some interesting tidbits about this particular episode. If you look at the credits, Vanessa Marshall voiced Hera Syndulla and did not
I know.
sound like Hera from Rebels at all, and she had an accent.
She
So
was
that was
using
a
her
great
French
job.
accent. Yeah.
Yeah, that she did an awesome job with that. And of course, we kind of look back to Caleb Doom. He sounded like Freddie Prinze Jr. Freddie Prinze did not change his voice at all.
They did not even attempt it because, I mean, I, I think they pitched it a little bit like to make it a little high, but like by maybe like this much.
Yeah.
Because of I just remember hearing it and it was like full out like adult Kanan. And I was like, okay, all right. I mean, I guess it works out, but at the same time, like it's kind of off, but it's fine. It's okay. But then with Hera, that was more close to what she would probably sound like because of before like for some people know this, but the Twi'leks they pretty much all have French accents. So and then when Hera left, she was around people that didn't talk like that as much, and then it is kind of like when like people go to a different country and then they're around those people for a while and they come back and then they have then they kind of have the accent from where they came from. It is kind of I mean because of I had a friend that went to London for like a year and came back and they were like, hello governor, like they were like talking like that. I'm sorry, that was a horrible impression, but I mean but they were talking like that, and I think when like Hera leaves Ryloth, I think that is what happens.
Right,
Is where she's no longer
and
she loses her accent because she's not around her people anymore.
So I got a quick trivia question for you. What is Chopper's droid designation? What's his droid name?
C1. Oh man. C1105.
Oh, you're so close. It was
Darn it.
C110P.
Oh, darn it. Shoot.
So yeah, Dave Filoni, just like in the Rebels credits, did not get the credit. It just says as himself, C110P, aka Chopper.
Yeah.
So that's always kind of funny that always happens. But yeah, it was a really good episode. I love seeing Hera. I love, like I've said repeatedly on this episode, I love it when they bring back older characters we know and love. And I think that's the way to go with the Bad Batch. You want to infuse stuff that we know. And I think that's true Star Wars, to have some callbacks and some old characters that we know and love. And I think Hera is one of the more beloved characters in animation. And I'm super excited to hopefully eventually see her in live action, hopefully sooner than later.
I don't know why, but I got this gut feeling that we'll probably see Ahsoka by the end of Bad Batch as well. Like something will happen, and then Captain Rex will show up, and he'll be like, "Hey, I brought some backup," and it will be Rafa and her sister, and then it'll end up being like Ahsoka, and they end up saving him in some way or something. But I don't know. I mean, they have mentioned her a couple of times. It would be a missed opportunity not to have her come in because of. I don't think Ashley Eckstein is done with that character. I think we'll see more of Ahsoka in different animated shows. Yeah. I don't think Bad Batch will be the last one either. I think we'll definitely get more Clone Wars style shows because of there's so much time. There are so many shows that could be done, based off of that timeline from Revenge of the Sith to A New Hope. I think there's so much potential.
Yeah. So that's, I think, all of our stories that we have. We have a really wild rumor we want to talk about at the very end of the show. So if you don't want to listen to it, you can drop off here. But I do want to talk about where you can find us. You can find us at Patreon, of course, at Star Wars Stuff Podcast 2187. You can always find us on YouTube now. A lot of people are subscribing to us. You can watch us do the podcast. We have videos occasionally. We put up pictures, and of course, you can see us do the podcast. And of course, TikTok,
On Twitter, Instagram.
Twitter at Stuff Pod, Instagram, which Colin runs at Star Wars Stuff Podcast. We're on Facebook. We have a page. We have a group. We post memes all the time. We post pictures. We post news.
And to also kind of plug our sister podcast.
Yes.
The Marvel Stuff Podcast. This, I mean, I've been saying this for a while. You know, next year is going to be the year of Star Wars. This is the year of Marvel. We talk a lot about, you know, like everything Marvel. And we actually just went and saw Black Widow this past weekend. So you will hear our full review of it, and Loki. And like I said, there's so much Marvel stuff going on there. And they dropped the new trailer for What If. So again, go check us out on Marvel Stuff Podcast.
Yeah. So you, Ray, and Josh actually saw Black Widow Thursday night, and you guys did a parking lot podcast, which was really awesome after you saw the movie, and the audio was really good. I know Josh commented that the audio wouldn't be that great, but the audio was really good. You guys were really clear, and it was a pretty awesome podcast, getting your initial reaction to the film. So
I don't remember if because of as soon as Josh started recording, and this is a funny story.
There's a car wreck, right?
Yeah. Like out of nowhere, I started to run. I don't know if it came on the podcast or not, but I think Ray was like, "Well, he's dressed like a superhero. He has to act like one." Because of I just sprinted across the parking lot.
What were you wearing?
I was wearing the Avengers time travel suits sweatshirt from Avengers Endgame.
Okay.
And I ended up running over there, and it was like I was trying to figure out who, and it was this minivan that crashed into a light pole, and I ran over, was like, "Hey, are you okay?" And the kid came out, and he was just like, "Yeah, I'm fine. I tried doing that scene from Tokyo Drift, and it just didn't work out." And I was like, all right, just be careful. And I came back to Josh, and he's like, "What happened? Is everyone all right?" I'm like, "Yeah, I was just a kid trying to do a scene from Tokyo Drift." And he's like, "Typical." Anyways, back to the Marvel Stuff podcast, and then we just started podcasting in the parking lot. It's funny.
Yeah, that was awesome. You guys are going to record a spoiler podcast tonight, and I got to see the film yesterday. I thought it was pretty good. I like some of the stuff.
I've watched it 3 times.
Oh gosh!
You
saw it at home, right?
On
Premiere Access.
Well, the first one, I got invited to a private screening. I was in town, and I was like, "Oh, okay, I'll go to it." And then I saw it on Thursday, and then as soon as I got then when I got back to Florida, and then I saw it last night with Brooke, because she hasn't seen it yet, and I was like, I don't think I've seen the Marvel film this much, all in a row, in a long time. So, but yeah, it's a good movie. Go see it. Anyways, Star Wars Stuff Podcast. It's great. Go check out the Marvel Stuff Podcast. We have a lot of fun over there. Is there anything? Oh, well, we have to talk about the rumor.
Yeah, so a wild rumor just dropped as we were doing the show notes here, that Luke, Grogu, Din Djarin will all be appearing in multiple episodes in the Book of Boba Fett, including where Grogu went after the last episode, and Grogu's Jedi training. Yes. So all
how
that
many
talk
episodes
of,
are they doing in the Book of Boba Fett?
Well, I mean, like we said earlier, I mean, there's 4 directors confirmed, so at least 4 episodes. But then Robert Rodriguez is doing multiple episodes, so you figure at least 8. But I mean,
how long is each episode going to be?
I don't know. But the merch that was given said season 1 to the crew. So they're thinking this is going to be a home run success. So hopefully we do get another season. And I think the rumor was that, yes, there is going to be another season of the Book of Boba Fett, even before we get the 3rd season of The Mandalorian. But, I mean, it's like we're getting The Mandalorian with the Book of Boba Fett, because if this rumor is true, he's going to be in multiple episodes. And of course, Pedro Pascal technically doesn't physically have to be there, because there's so many stunt doubles and people that wear the suit. So all he has to do is record the voice and email it.
Right, but at the same time, they also kind of changed it up from what you're saying, where like, technically he doesn't have to be there because he never takes his helmet off. Well, he did take his helmet off, like in a big way, like he showed everyone his face and
Right. And that should
in
lead to more helmetless stuff in the future.
yeah,
But it seems
multiple
like
episodes. Okay,
yeah.
I was not expecting that because like I mean because of
But
I
it's a
was
rumor,
expecting
guys.
it
It's
to
a
be-
rumor.
Yeah.
Take it with a pinch of salt. Might not happen. It's just something that's out there. I believe it was on Fandom Wire.
And
And
this is not a rumor. Max Rebo was going to show up, and you're all going to be like, "Wow, Colin was right." That's a fact. But yeah, no.
you said Max Rebo and his son, right? Playing the smaller
That would be
keyboard.
so cool. Like, how cool would that be? Oh, it'd be awesome.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Mm-hmm. Well, anyways, guys, thank you so much for listening to the Star Wars Stuff podcast. We would not be here if it wasn't for you guys.
Yes, thank you
David
to
is-
everyone on Patreon that supports us, that contributes, and we're gonna start buying merch here pretty soon for the 2022 celebration, and we're throwing around ideas right now. So I think everyone on Patreon is gonna get something, at least something, a sticker, a magnet, something nice, coin maybe. So update your addresses in Patreon. Make sure that, and I'll probably verify with you specifically individually. So we make sure you get your stuff. So yeah, for Colin, my name is David. May the force be with you.
always.